Let's take a look at this assignment. So the third assignment builds on the second assignment, right? On the first couple assignments. The first assignment basically walked us through setting up a Java middle tier using the Spring Boot framework. Right? We have a Java Web Services, Java JPA, Java Persistence API database object relational mapping that connects to a MySQL database, right? And we used jQuery as a means for creating a login, registration, and user profile and whatnot. Yes? And that's still the server and middle tier that we've been using for the last couple of weeks, and it will be for the next week or so. Okay? Then in the second assignment, we started working on the faculty side of a online course management application we've come to call Whiteboard. Right? And we're still going to be working on that faculty side of this online course management application. On the previous assignment, assignment number 2, we worked on faculties being able to create courses and start adding some structure to those courses. You know, adding modules to those courses, and lessons to those courses, and topics to those courses. Yes, but that's only for structuring the organization of a course. Faculty couldn't yet actually add any content to the courses, right? Content being videos and text content or links to other third-party content and whatnot. So that's going to be the focus of the third assignment. The third assignment will be being able to actually add content to a course, you know, such as links to a YouTube video, adding HTML content, raw HTML content, things like that. Okay, and we'll be using the same middle tier, Java, right? The same client-side technology that we've been using from last week, right? So we are still using React.js, right? But we're going to change the mechanism by which we maintain state. Right? Up to this point, we've been using the out-of-the-box technique of using this.state, right? Where each component is responsible of maintaining its own state. Right? And any changes to the state is driven by event handlers. You know, an event handler goes on and then invokes this.setState, and that invokes a refresh of the UI. Right? When the state changes, the UI is re-rendered. Correctly? Yes. One of the challenges that we've all experienced a little bit is that the state is usually maintained at the top level of some container component, and then that is shared with its children by using attributes, yes, as properties. You know, the parent passes that substate to its children, the children to their children, and so on and so forth. And whenever you wanted to manipulate any of the state, you had to somehow from the child, you know, go back all the way to the top who owns the state, right, and notify the parent of the state, change the state, and then everything would trickle down again to the children. Okay, and we've only done it for just a couple of components. This becomes so much more complex in larger applications where you have several dozen components talking to one another. So maintaining state becomes very, very challenging in a complex application. You know, who notifies who, and where the events go back and forth between parent and children. So many other alternatives have been suggested on how to maintain state. What are better alternatives of how to maintain state? Okay, one particular technique that has become fairly popular is the use of Redux. Right? Redux is a technique that is not specific to React, although it works very, very well with React. Right? You can use Redux with other frameworks. Right? You could use it with Angular. You could use it with jQuery. You could use it with any other framework that's out there. But it's become very, very popular in the React community. All right. So we're going to be using Redux for the next week or so, starting today and all next week. And the assignment is based on applying Redux techniques to implement new features to the faculty side application. Right? Being able to add widgets, add content to courses, right? Lessons and topics. Add widgets to those. Okay. So let's look at the assignment. Assignment number 3. It assumes that you have completed the previous 2 assignments. And it walks you adding the following features, right? Being able to add content widgets to our courses, right? Being able to say, well, I want a heading widget, I want a raw HTML widget, I want a link that links to a separate piece of content, adding a YouTube video embedded as part of the course content. So adding these types of widgets, right? And we're going to be using the Redux technique to be able to maintain state across all these widgets. Okay. All right. So here are a little bit what some of the dependencies from the previous assignment. We assume that you already have completed lessons or you have completed topics. Lessons if you're an undergrad, or topics if you're a grad student. And we're going to be able to, we're going to add the feature of being able to add widgets to a topic or lesson, depending on your undergrad or grad. So for instance, if you're a grad, you should have something like this. On the left-hand side, modules. On the top side, tabs for lessons. That's up to there if you're an undergrad. If you're a grad, you have additional topics, being able to add topics. Okay. Once you select a topic, we're going to add a feature that will allow us to add any number of content here, content type. Right? So you can add a widget, for instance, a heading widget. A heading widget, you can have a heading as an H1, H2, H3, right? Like an HTML heading, right? So you can you have a form that allows you to configure that widget, right? All widgets will have a specific form that allows you to configure. For instance, here you can have the text for the heading. You can configure the size of the heading. You can give it a name. Also, all widgets have a name, and they also have a preview. What would it look like when it gets rendered? Okay, and there's a plus button at the bottom that allows you to add a brand new widget. So you can add any number of widgets. Okay, and they appear one after another. Also, each widget at the top has some configuration, an X button to be able to remove that widget. It has also a drop-down so that you can change the type of the widget on the fly. Right? So you can have a drop-down and say, well, I want you to be this other type of widget. Okay? And it also has a up and down arrow that allows you to move the widgets and reorder it up and down so it's a particular order. It also has at the top a save button, meaning that as you add widgets here, they're only cached locally on the client, right? If I refresh the page, everything's gone. It's not saved immediately to the server, right? It's only saved to the server when you click on Save button, right? When you click on the Save button, you push the entire array of widgets to the server, and the server then stores in the database permanently. Make sense? Okay. Also, there's a preview button. That what it does is that if you click on the preview, it hides all the forms, right? Hides all the configuration content, and you only are left with the preview, right? What this would look like, right? If a student is looking at this, right? If a student is consuming this content, this is what the student would see, right? Would see a preview. It would see only the heading. Make sense? As you change the text or as you change any configuration, the preview updates live. You can see immediately what the preview would look like. Make sense? All right. All right. So that's in a nutshell what we're building. All right. So let's look at it in a little bit more detail. Any questions before we continue? Yes. Well, if we were doing the React Native, then yes. There are no requirements here that it's mobile friendly. Yeah. In the React Native, we would be doing it friendly. I guess we're skipping that. I need to see where I would add that requirement here. I have to think about that. The wireframe. All right. So first of all, we have this is referred to as the list of widgets or widget list. is a component that manages the list of widgets that allows you to add, remove, move around. Here are two types of widgets, one after another. We have a heading widget at the top, followed by a list widget at the bottom. So there's two widgets here on this page. So presumably, we had clicked on plus twice, and we then have configured the first one to be a heading widget, and we configured the second one to be a list widget. Okay? And they have different forms. They have different forms to configure. The heading widget has heading tags, a heading dropdown, and then a widget name, whereas the list widget has a text area, right, that allows you to put each item in a separate row. Right? So if you want a list, right, you can put each item in a separate row. Then you can choose whether it's an unordered list, an ordered list, right? And depending on what you click on it, it renders each item in a separate row, right? And then either numbers it or it uses bullets. Yes? Right? And if I change the list, the widget type, the form would change on the fly. Okay, it would change it immediately, so you would immediately see the new type of widget. So here are the requirements. There's an add widget button. Okay, there's an add widget button right here. You can, again, this is an example, a suggestion of what the layout might look like. You're free to to experiment other ways of laying this out, but nevertheless the use cases should be there, right? The functionality should be there. Okay? If you prefer the plus button to be at the top instead of the bottom, or whether, if you can think of another way, better way of adding a new widget, then by all means, maybe you want a drop down here that you can say plus, and it adds that particular type of widget, right? Otherwise, the default widget type is a heading widget of size 1. That's the default widget. If I click on plus, right, by default, it adds a heading widget of size 1. Yes? That's the default. The user can change the type of the widget using the select widget type dropdown. The select widget type dropdown is this one right here. So each widget has a dropdown that I can change the type of the widget on the fly. Changing the widget type re-renders the widget to match the new widget type, with the forms remembering the value. So it should remember any form elements that you had filled out already. So say this was a heading widget and you had already typed in some text. If you change to a list widget, the form would change. But if I change it back to heading, it should remember what I had typed earlier. Right? It shouldn't force me to type it again. Okay. Delete widget button. So each widget has an X that allows you to remove the widget. Again, if you want to use a different icon or you want to put it on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side, it's up to you if you want to change the layout a little bit. Position buttons. The position buttons allow you to move the widget up and down. There is a bonus at the end of the assignment where you can use instead dragging, where you can grab the widget and drag it above or below, and drag and drop and put it in a different place. That's a bonus. Okay, but at a minimum, there should be these two buttons that allow you to go up and down. Save widget list button. So the widget list button, it's this save button that when you click on it, it takes the entire array of widgets and it posts it to the server. Right? The server receives a list of widgets and it saves it brand new in the database, right? Updating anything that it needs to update. The preview checkbox. So if you click on the preview checkbox, notice that what these two widgets here that you had the title, the forms, had these buttons at the top. When you click on the preview, all those forms disappear, right? And you're only left with the preview of each one of the widgets. So these two forms, these two widgets, they would be instead rendered as such, like this. You would just see the heading and then the list, and that's it. Right? And you can toggle the preview on and off. Yes? Okay. The widget name attribute. So all widgets have a name attribute. They all share this one attribute, this common attribute amongst themselves. They all have that. It's not used anywhere else, but it could be used at a later time, perhaps to reference a widget by name. Right? Those names. I'm not sure if it says here, all widgets have common attribute called name. This is optional attribute that can be useful for okay, yeah. Widget property labels and placeholders. So some of these, like for instance here, the heading text. Notice that I'm showing here sample text being typed in there. See that? But if I remove that text, there should be a placeholder, right? Like grayed out. That gives me a hint of what it is that you're asking me to type in there. Even though it's not shown here as an example, a placeholder is required. Also, notice that none of these have labels. See that I don't here I can guess at what these things are, but these should all have labels. So please add some useful label, right? Like heading text or heading size, or widget name or something. Oh, this is a placeholder. That's a placeholder. That is a place. So not all of them are showing placeholders, and not all of them are showing labels, but labels and placeholders are required. What else? Widget properties and form elements. Changing any widget property updates the widget preview. Okay, yeah. So as you edit the properties of a widget, the preview updates on the fly. All widget properties display their current value in the database when rendered. Meaning, if I refresh the page, it always shows the very last thing that is in the database. Right? So all the values that are shown here, right? When it first renders, it should show, whatever the list of widgets are in the database, with their text and the size and whatever names I had chosen, right, in the preview. So this should always show what the database has. Up until obviously I start changing it or adding new things, and up until I save. But once I save, if I refresh, I should always see here a representation of what's in the database. Okay. All right. So the next couple of sections go in detail about each type of widget. Right, so let's look at the heading widget. And they go in the order of increasing complexity. Right? So the heading widget is one of the easiest types of widgets. Basically, if you click on plus and you select on heading, you have a place to put in the text for the heading. You can select a drop-down, heading 1, 2, 3. Just three sizes is fine. The heading size widget property configures the size of the widget. The default size is heading 1. If I change this to heading 2 or 3 and I save it, if I refresh the page, this should show the correct size. Right, so this drop-down should always show the correct size of the current size of the widget, of the heading. And also the heading text. Paragraph is almost the same as the heading, but you can just type a long-running piece of text, right, and it will be added as a paragraph. You should use the text area to be able to accept the content of that paragraph. The placeholder should be lorem ipsum as shown in the above picture. The list widget. So the list widget provides a text area where you can type each item, each line item, each list item in a separate line. And then what the widget does is it takes the text and it uses the new line character to split it into an array of strings. You see that? And then it renders as a list. And the list can be either ordered or unordered. Right? So this could render just as bullets or 1, 2, 3 and whatnot. Yes? Okay. Let's see. List item, image widget. So the image widget allows you to copy and paste a URL for an image. Right? And the URL can be any URL on the internet, on the web. Folks should be able to copy a URL of an image and copy and paste it in there and save it. And it should show a preview, right, of that image, the raw image. You shouldn't have to. The application should not have to upload the image or save the image in a database. It's just a plain old URL. Right? It's just a string. Right? And the string is used in an image tag to render that image. Okay. Link widget. A link widget allows you to create a hyperlink, right? That allows you to click on that and navigate to a different piece of content. So you can type in the let's see. Why are there two of these? The link widget property configures the hyperlink's text, the placeholder. Oh, I guess one of these should be a placeholder. Must be a placeholder. It should be link text. Oh no, the URL. I guess I just have the URL. I wonder why there's three of these. I think one of them is redundant here. Probably this one is redundant. Shouldn't be there. All right, I'll need to fix that image. Yeah, so just a link, the link text, that's the link the text that shows up for the text that can be clickable, and then the URL that will, if you click on it, it'll navigate to that particular location. All right, so the widget list editor. All right, so that's a client side, right? That's a React using Redux. On the server side, we're extending the data model a little bit. We have a module, right? A course contains several modules. A module contains several lessons. A lesson contains several topics, and each topic can have any number of widgets, right? And the widget has the following fields: a name, the order, in what order, which order is it? Also a text, class name. Right, so a widget can, presumably you can attach a class to a widget. It has a style, has a width and a height. Okay, so those are the common attributes of all widgets. Right? But there are several derived types of widgets, such as the heading. The heading has an additional size integer. The link has an href. And it inherits the text. It uses the text as the text that is rendering that needs to be clicked. The image has an additional source string. The paragraph doesn't have any additional fields. I couldn't think of one. If you think of one, let me know. But it uses the text as the actual text of the paragraph. List has list items and the list type, whether it's ordered or unordered. Okay, so the list items is just a string. You'll need to remember to store also the new lines in there. Basically, the text that the person typed in the text field in the text area. When it gets saved to the database, it gets saved with all new lines in there as well. Right, so you can use those new lines to split it into an array of strings, so you can render it as a list of bullets. Right, so there should be a widget JPA CRUD repository, and there should be a web service that should allow you to retrieve all the widgets, to retrieve a particular widget. It should allow you to retrieve a widget for a particular lesson. This is if you are an undergrad, right? If you're a graduate, then it should be for a particular topic. If you give me the topic ID, I can give you the widgets in that topic. Yes? Same thing if you're creating a brand new widget. What the? You're posting to a topic, and then the topic ID, and then the widget. Creates a new widget for the lesson topic. if whose ID is lesson ID, topic ID. Okay. Put, you should be able to modify a particular widget, right? If you want to be able to modify a widget, or you can remove a particular widget. Bonus, if user tries to navigate away, right? If for some reason I try to close the window or navigate away and I have unsaved changes, right? It should tell me. It says, hey, are you sure you want to navigate away? You have widgets that you have not saved to the server, right? So it should let you know. Enforce the widget names to be unique within that particular lesson or topic. Add draggable so that you can reorder the widgets up and down, right, by dragging and dropping. Add an edit button. Add an edit button so that when you add a new widget, all other widgets show in preview and only show editing tools when you click on the edit button. Yeah. So right now there's a preview here, right? There's a preview button. Right now there's a preview button that converts all of them into preview, right? A nice thing would be that instead it would typically show everything in preview always, right? But then it would have an edit button right here, right? If you click on the edit button, then it would show the form for you to edit, right? When you say OK, it goes back to preview. Okay, that would be a nice touch. So instead, that would be instead of the preview toggle, right? If you have the edit button for each widget, there's really no need for the preview button, for the preview toggle. What else? Search images from Flickr. Wait, flick.com? I think I meant Flickr. Or Google Images, show the top 10 images and let the user select the image. So instead of copying and pasting the image here, instead of copying and pasting the image here, there should be where we can type a search term. Right? It goes off to Google Images, right? And it shows the top 10 images that are relevant to that search criteria. Right? And if you select an image, if you click on an image that you want, it would copy that URL of that image and would put it right here. Right? And it would dismiss the dialog. Either under dialog, doesn't have to be a dialog, I guess it could be right under here. Right? As you type, you search, right? And then you select the image and then it goes away. Right? And then you get the URL from an image that you found online. Yes? Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to be using the same exact repository for the Java server. That's going to stay the same. It's the same Java repository we've used for the last 2 weeks. We're going to keep using the same React repository that we used for assignment 2. We'll use the same exact repository for assignment 3. So that hasn't changed. So we're using exactly the same layout as we did for assignment 2. That does not change. When we finish Redux and we start Angular, then we'll have to create another repo that handles Angular. Okay, but that won't be for another week or so. All right. Any questions? All right. Let's talk Redux.